Oisín O'Callaghan. Oisín, I suppose I should address you by saying Oisín O'Callaghan, world champion and young sportsperson of the year. I don't know if that's a too long a title for you, but you've been a busy man over the last 12 months, and it's been quite the rise.
Yeah, it's been an incredible year from even the get-go of being able to be signed for one of the biggest professional teams in my sport, which has always been something I've been dreaming of since a young kid, of looking up at the pros and seeing the teams they've been on. That was the first achievement, and then going from there to being world champion.
I remember the press release you sent us about getting on that professional team, the YT Mob, and they must have obviously spotted some potential in you, and their judgment and their faith in you was certainly repaid. But how hard is it to like, I've seen the travel that you guys would have went on your own back, yourself and your dad, and all the supports you would have got. What kind of a difference does it make when you finally get onto a team like that?
It's just they supply you with everything you need to bring it to the next level, between having your own mechanic at a race that he fixes everything, then you have a guy that makes you food, does everything. He has a timetable made out for you, when to finish your practice, when to go up for your race run. He has all, like, your electrolyte drinks at the bottom. The minute you're done practice, he has them all laid out on your table. It's just everything you need just to focus on the riding part.
To get to that point, there's obviously been lots of years of hard work leading up to just getting signed for that team. Go back to the early stages of your career, and I suppose where your interest in the sport came from, and how I suppose you gradually started to move up the ranks and think, I'm pretty good at this.
It's always been when people ask me, when did you want to know you wanted to do this? It's just as long as I can remember, since I was in primary school, really young. This is just what I wanted to do, be world champion. Even people are like, back then when I was in primary school, and there was a picture of what you wanted to be when you're older, and everyone had their jobs, and I said to be junior world champion or to be world champion back then. And I was only in 5th class at the time.
And tell us about, I suppose, the area you're living in Limerick, when it's proximity to Ballyhour and all that, and those facilities. The two kind of stars aligned in that sense, in that and I don't think people realize that sometimes we do have a fantastic facility on our doorstep in County Limerick that people, sometimes forget.
It's pretty good for going out training nice and easy, but it does lack some of the standard of trails I'm trying to ride when I go away racing. That's why we have to go away to the likes of the continent and the UK to ride tracks that are up to the standard I race on. So that's all it's lacking, really.
And tell us, I suppose, about this year with COVID and with all the kind of restrictions and the disruption to sports. Your season did go ahead, albeit with some restrictions, but you were able to get around to the venues in the continent. And what was that experience like? I suppose, when you consider that a lot of the sports people in the country had stuff delayed or postponed, but you, fortunately enough, were able to keep going.
Thankfully, even though for a while it didn't look as if it wasn't going. If it looked as if it wasn't going to happen at all, but in the end it did. So lots of people thought that this isn't going to happen, and people were actually starting to go home, and they didn't want any races because they thought there was no point, and some people didn't even bother coming out. But thankfully it happened, and even though we didn't get the full calendar, we only got a couple of races. It was better than nothing. And the biggest thing was all the excitement of meeting the team, joining, and having this date to build up to at the start of the year, which was supposed to be in April last year. Then it getting postponed and reorganized and postponed, and it was just getting continuously postponed. And that's when people were like, it's not going to happen. But me and my dad still went out to the likes of a place called Oisín in France. I've been doing it every summer anyway, so we went out training for, I think it was 2.5 months, just mainly Oisín in the French Alps, and then we went to the likes of places in Switzerland, Italy, just getting up to speed on the quicker tracks that I'd be racing on.
You did put in an awful lot of work behind the scenes, I suppose, last year to be ready for when racing came back on. And I suppose when it did, tell us about the build up to that to becoming world champion, and how that work would have stood you in good stead.
Even from the tracks over in Europe, people don't realise from Ireland until they go out there, the difference in the likes of the speed, how quick they are, but they do have bigger mountains, so they can afford to let the tracks be a lot quicker, as the mountain's bigger, so they can make the track quicker and longer. While here the mountains aren't big enough to make a track that quick, it'd just be too short. So over there is really where you have to go to train to be up to standard against all the Europeans to race the world circuit.
And going into that meet, when you eventually became world champion, tell us about, I suppose, the start of that series of races, and how you felt at the start of it, and the momentum you built up through to eventually becoming world champion.
Even just the start of the week, being in Leogang in Austria, where the world champs was all just no real pressure. My first race as a junior, and I was one of the youngest there, you could say, being a first year junior, and done track walk. It was just basically riding the trails here in Ireland, just pure muck, just like home. And it was just the whole way through practice, but it just felt normal, just like Irish conditions, riding in the wet and the snow and the rain. It just was natural.
And that, and tell us, I suppose, about how it works, or how the format. Do you get 3 or 4 runs, or is it an aggregate of your times? Is it your best time, or what did you do to become world champion at that meet?
At World Champs, it's slightly different to every other race. Usually at a World Cup, it's over 3 days, while at World Champs, it's 4. So at World Champs, it's the first day is practice. So you have a full day of practice, just do as many runs as you want, basically. And it doesn't take that long. Get the gondola up 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes to do a run unless you stop, watch some lines, then take breaks in between, and just chill out as you have the whole day. Then the second day, you have 2 hours in the morning, and then it goes into your qualifying run, which is basically puts you in order for your race day. So it eliminates the quicker people catching the slower people. So the quicker go last, and then the slower go first. Then the third day is another day of practice. And then the fourth day is race day, which you have 2 hours of practice in the morning again, and then 1 run to lay it all down.
So there isn't much room for error when it's just 1 run. And I noticed you said there the gondola, I suppose, for anybody who's been skiing to Austria or to France or Switzerland, it's basically the ski facilities just in summertime once the snow is gone. So that should give people an idea of the inclines and the declines that you go down on these hills.
Yeah, some of the stuff is so steep that you actually can't stop. You're just on the brakes and picking up momentum, and you're just hoping at the bottom of a steep chute where the corner is really big that just commit and lean and make it around.
And that feeling, I suppose, when you got down and you saw when you finished that winning run, let's say, and you got to the bottom, how quickly did you realize that your time was the winning time, or what did a few riders have to go after you that finished outside your time, or how did that work?
In my qualifying, you see, I caught someone because I was my first race at that level. I was one of the first off. And I caught someone in my qualifying, which meant I had a really bad qualifying. So my position in the race run my start list was pretty bad too. So I had another 40 riders to come down after I came down. So I was in the hot seat for, I think, was it nearly an hour, over an hour. And each rider slower. I was like, I don't know what I'm after doing here.
And is that like that must have been an agonizing 40 minutes just to have to, you know, my idea of it was that you were maybe the second, third, fourth last down the hill, and you know the most you would have had to wait was a few minutes, but 40 minutes on the edge of your seat just watching the riders come down the hill and the finishing times. Was your dad with you, and who was more nervous in that situation?
And my dad was nearby with some other of the people I've raced with for years, their parents. But it was my team manager and my mechanic, my teammate, and the guy that makes us basically, he just does everything we need to help us focus on riding. They were all there beside me. And I suppose the first time it really like sunk in was when my team manager had the live timing beside me. He said, oh, you're guaranteed a medal. And I was like, this is getting serious now.
And of course, you weren't just guaranteed any old medal; you were guaranteed the top medal. You know, initial thoughts when you saw your name up in first place.
I can't even really remember what happened. I just remember there was loads of people that I had been riding with over the summer before that race, and they were all in juniors, and loads of older riders that I know, and they were all like there too after coming down from their runs. And when they all just started roaring that I won, I was like, I didn't actually believe them for a second. And I was like, God, it's something that I thought you can't put into words.
Yeah, amazing feeling. And we did see the photographs and the video of the national anthem and you on the podium. Look, that was fantastic. You went on to win the Young Sportsperson of the Year with RTE last week, another huge achievement. But, you know, looking forward to next season, and I know we mentioned off air that it might be off season, but it's certainly not downtime for you. A lot of work going on at the moment with looking ahead to next season.
Yeah, it's always been, even for the last 4 or 5 years, I've always been in the minute the first race or the last race is done, I'm back training a week after. So I'm in the gym 6 to 7 days a week. Well, training 6 to 7 days a week. I count the 2 days on the bike not really training, even though it's just fun.
And what kind of, when you say training, we obviously know different sports, different types of gym work, different types of programs. What's the key for your sport? Is it endurance? Is it cardio? Is it strength? Is it a combination of all three?
It's really a mixture between explosive power, just trying to get as up to speed as quick as possible out of that corner when you're stamping on the pedals. Then it does involve a little bit of cardio, 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes when you're on the bike and you cross the finish line at the bottom and you feel it. After those 3.5 minutes are hard 3.5 minutes, but then you do need a lot of strength. Like there is some big hits going off, the likes of the 60-foot jumps that you could be going off into the finish, and you do need some strength to hold yourself up when you land.
60-foot jump, mother of God. I suppose, look, sum it up for me. The emotions after last season, and I suppose looking forward again to next year, and hopefully if vaccination programs go according to plan across not just Ireland but Europe, that we might hopefully see things open up gradually over the summer. But you know, looking forward to 2021 in a positive frame of mind.
Yeah, for sure. I've got some goals that I want to achieve.